If you're a Hindu, or if you practice yoga, then you're probably wondering how the Yoga Vasishta, which is the yoga of self-enquiry, fits into your practices, whether of traditional types of yoga or traditional Hindu practices. And the answer is they don't. They've got nothing to do with self-enquiry. By all means, carry on with yoga and carry on with religious practices, but it's really important to understand the distinction between Yoga Vasistha, which is the yoga of self-enquiry, and ordinary religious practices. This is the problem that this current chapter and the last chapter have been dealing with. And Vasistha starts off with the traditional understanding and moves to the realization that if you want to appreciate the self, be established in the self, then the only way of doing this is self-enquiry. Vasistha continued, "Just as you perform worship of Lord Vishnu and others, why do you not worship your own self? Lord Vishnu in fact dwells as the innermost being of all. They are surely the worst among men who, abandoning the indweller, seek Vishnu outside. The Lord's primary dwelling is the heart cave of all beings, that is his eternal body. The form that is seen with the conch, discus, mace, etc. is the secondary form of the self. That's one of the forms of Vishnu. He who abandons the primary truth and runs after the secondary aspects is like one who throws away a proven remedy and struggles in vain to effect a cure by other means. He who is unable to contemplate with one pointed attention the indwelling self, and who is therefore unable to attain wisdom of the self, might engage himself in the worship of the external form of Lord Vishnu." You might as well get on with whatever it is you want to get on with. By the very effort involved in such practice, the mind will gradually become purified and coloured. You can practice mental training and you'll get results from that. But there's a lot of results from that which might not be conducive to self-enquiry. But whatever practice you do, you might still possibly awaken to self-enquiry. As I said before, it's like stumbling in the dark. You either stumble upon it or you don't. In the course of time, when this practice is continued with intelligence and wisdom, and that's the key point, if you practice with intelligence and wisdom, then you have to actually appreciate the limitations of what you're doing and not slavishly follow them, not slavishly follow a technique, but pursue the technique with understanding of what you're doing. In the course of time, when this practice is continued with intelligence and wisdom, there arises joy and peace in the heart, and one attains maturity and ripeness for self-knowledge. In fact, this fruition that I have mentioned is derived from the self. The worship of Lord Vishnu, as it is called, is but an excuse for it. Whatever boons or blessings are obtained from Lord Vishnu are in fact obtained from the self alone by one who practices inquiry into the nature of the self. All these different practices and all the blessings that seem to accrue from them are all based on the understanding and the mastery of one's own mind, even as the earth is the basis for all the diverse foodstuff. In fact, even for ploughing the soil or turning a rock, there is no way but the mastery of one's own mind. One may revolve in the wheel of birth and death for 1,000 lifetimes. This will not cease till one has fully mastered the mind, until that mind has come to a state of supreme peace and equanimity. No one in the three worlds, not even the gods or the members of the Trinity, can save a man from the torments of a wayward mind. Hence, O Ram, abandon all the illusory appearances of objective phenomena, whether they appear to be within you or outside you. This is the important point. We don't get caught up in illusory phenomena, but these phenomena can appear inside as well. And these phenomena can be related to meditation and yoga. Just because we tend to have this assumption that because something happens inside, it's perhaps more real than what's happening outside. That is, if you think of yourself as a spiritual person. The spiritual person sees people focused on the external reality as being deluded, but they get focused on some internal reality which is just as deluded. So you don't get caught up in appearances, whether they're within or without. Contemplate the sole reality of consciousness for the cessation of repeated birth. Taste the pure consciousness, which is, in truth, the very essence of all that exists, by resolutely renouncing objectivity of consciousness, which is all the concepts and percepts. You give up all your notions about what's going on, including notions of perception. And contemplating the changeless consciousness which is infinite, you will surely cross this river of world appearance and rebirth. So if you are a Hindu and you're caught up with worship of the deity and other practices, or even if you're not a Hindu and you're caught up in spiritual practices, you really need to examine these practices. You don't have to stop doing them, but you don't need to carry on doing them either. You might carry on doing them as part of your daily lifestyle, but if you're interested in self-enquiry, then it is worth being quite clear to what extent these practices help you with self-enquiry. They might help you stay calm, they might help you be focused, and that's great. But there are lots of things that can do that. You know, even just going to the gym, for example, can help. But that's not got anything to do with self-enquiry. Self-enquiry is realization of your own essential consciousness or awareness and dwelling in that realization. This is what the essence of the last paragraph is about. It doesn't mention Vishnu, doesn't mention yogic practices, doesn't mention mastery of the mind. It's about the sole reality of consciousness, tasting that, giving up all your notions and appreciating the infinite nature of that consciousness.